Star Wars, those crazy Star Wars. Hey guys, welcome to the Pretend Podcast. It's me, Gavin, and I'm joined by
Craig.
And guess what? This is the Star Wars Episode 2, which follows episodes 4, 5,
and 12,
6, 8, 9, possibly Rogue One, and some foreign interpretations.
Yes.
Are you still with us?
Yeah, it's going to be great. We were coming back after a bit of a hiatus.
Yeah.
There was a vacation in our secret underground lair.
That we did maybe hint at in some of the later episodes that we had such grand plans for this vacation and recording. I think we had like 6 podcast ideas. We were going to record them all. But if anybody's ever gone to the beach with children, you know that it wears you out. Being in the sunshine and having a kid, and by 7 o'clock you might not be ready to record.
And when you start drinking at about 9 a.m., it gets tough.
It is tough. It's a
hard thing.
You get to those bedtime stories, and you're definitely, if you are functioning, you're not ready to record anything you're saying for 2 hours or so.
No, but we did do some research.
We did. So we watched a few things. We had grand ideas, and all those, or most of them, will translate into upcoming episodes still, I think. So,
I think so.
So we had, what were some of the ideas that do you remember what the plans were? One of which was Star Wars.
One was a superhero day, where we would dress up like superheroes and watch superhero movies and maybe eat hot wings.
Yeah, because we've had those in the past, and we were like, well, if we could document this for the show.
And now that our kids are getting old enough to really kind of take part, I think it would be pretty cool to kind of get them in on it and maybe let them record in the podcast.
Yeah.
They're really only a part of the show in mention only.
We will exploit them. They have great opinions, and I think you all
funny.
need to hear them. So
they're weird.
And superhero would be great. So we had some technical difficulties with media stuff too at the beach.
That's
so that was part of it. And then it kind of
Jacob Hunker.
Come on, man. No, he saved the day, but it was down to the last day. And we didn't want to be like, all right, now record everything that's happening.
No one say anything.
So we got a superhero theme episode coming up. We had just beach themed movies. So I probably won't do that one so much.
Yeah. My God, Summer School.
Yeah. So they'll probably make their way into
which we've probably mentioned before.
Yeah, exactly. Starring
Mark Harmon.
Yeah, and Jaws was probably somewhere in there, but. Yeah, so we had some good stuff on deck, and we'll get to them. And ultimately, I felt too, as long as you guys got to relax, I didn't really need a vacation. So I felt like I really didn't want to push Craig and my wife on the vacation side of things. About, come on, man, we have to record. This is our show. And
I feel like
so did you get to relax a bit?
Did I
Okay, good.
Yeah, actually slept decent for a few nights, and my kid and your kid mostly got along, except for when they were fighting over who ate whose imaginary hamburgers.
Yeah, imaginary hamburgers and toys, and I think they even on the kid level enjoyed just doing that with each other.
I think so.
That was their version of
finally.
Yeah, I could just torment somebody else and somebody else.
I'm not at school. Nobody's going to tell me not to do
they're
ridiculous shit.
They're both single children, so they don't know what it's like to be just around any other person like
my
that.
My daughter certainly does not.
So my kid's in the same boat. So we had a great time, and was well worth it. So apologies to the listener that we didn't get to document that and share it with you guys.
And a shout out to Crappy Jack's.
Oh yeah,
located in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Crappy Jack's, not so good. What was the official name? We should just officially throw them under the bus.
Happy Jack's?
I don't think it was. Was it Happy Jack's? Tacky
Jacks.
Tacky Jacks too.
Yes. The tacky part is how the food makes your butt want to explode.
Yeah, overpriced, terrible food, horrible atmosphere, but it's the reason why Tacky Jacks 1 isn't around anymore.
That's true. But, like a Walmart, the upside of Tacky Jacks 2 is that you will always be the most attractive person there.
True. You feel good when you're in that room.
I'm doing all right.
Awesome. Cool, man. Well, should we shift gears to one of our favorite topics? Whether we're recording or not, we love to just talk Star Wars. And, we tried to have like a witty themes. I think it was supposed to be like a Star Wars knockoff theme even.
Yes.
We had certain ones that were like funny. And we'll probably get back to that at some point. But then, and even with our beach movies thing, kind of unintentionally, we just realized that every time that you and I at least have hung out at the beach together, and every time pretty much I've ever just been at a beach, I've ended up just watching at least 2 of the 3 original Star Wars movies.
I just watch Star Wars.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know why. It's like an easy, even like pre-kid or something, it was always just like the one you throw on. And sure enough, we had like a Star Wars day unintentionally. We just started watching in reverse order, Return of the Jedi, then Empire, and then the original Star Wars, and it just kind of kept going. So we figured we would just plow through the originals for you guys as far as the table of contents, and then we'll do Rogue One and Force Awakens, which will lead into some predictions.
Oh my God, they're gonna be good.
And because maybe you guys have heard a lot of people talk about this movie called Star Wars.
Possibly. If any of you out there, if this is your first exposure, just stop listening and go watch Star Wars. And then come back.
Yeah. And then you'll have a little better understanding of what's going on. But, or not. Maybe this would be a great way. Maybe we'll do such a great job that we'll convince somebody that had no desire to ever watch any Star Wars that maybe I should give those movies a shot.
Maybe it's because we're older and of the generation that would have necessarily seen Star Wars, but increasingly I bump into people who are like, no, I've never seen them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
How in 2017 have you not just incidentally bumped into Star Wars at some point?
Yeah.
But there are people who are just like, no, never seen them.
Yeah, it's, and there is that window, and it probably is about like the early or late college. You think are they like? So you're assuming like college age students?
Yeah, sort of older college age students.
Because it is like I remember that being like a window of like if you missed like if you're younger than us, but like somehow maybe missed like the special editions in your teen years, because that was like kind of the next big blow up.
I think. A big bump.
And that kind of led into the prequels even, and a lot of kids, even like probably 30-year-olds or something at this point, late 20-year-olds would like consider like the prequels as like more credible movies than we're skipping them in this whole thing.
That's even a weird thing. Like there are people for whom they're like, oh man, I love that pod race.
Yeah, or they at least just kind of consider them like, well, why wouldn't you include those? But yeah, it is weird that window, and I think it is like a small, maybe not even 10 years worth of something, like a 4-year grad.
Where people are like, no, never saw them.
Yeah, because now it's back, whether you like it or not. I think
it's
like everyone's kind of like Force weekend, and may the Force be with you. And it is probably really annoying for people that don't care about Star Wars of how like they do know half the characters in the movie without even seeing the movie. They're probably like, even still Chewbacca. Aware of what a lightsaber is and fucking Chewbacca and stuff. So it's like, wow, that would be pretty annoying if it was like a movie I didn't care to see. I can't really think of anything in comparison.
Who would not care to see it?
I know, it doesn't make any sense.
It's a space opera.
It is.
It has it all.
It's flawless.
It is flawless.
Well, maybe not. We'll get into it. But, I guess, I don't know. Before we go into, and we do have one other topic that isn't just the main movies that we want to share with you guys, which is Turkish Star Wars.
Oh my God.
And this is something I hadn't really heard about till recently when we were looking up knockoffs, and apparently this is one of the most epic knockoffs in Star Wars lore, and it translates to the man who saved the world, but it's been just renamed as like Turkish Star Wars.
Yes.
And it was like just this terrible Mystery Science Theater caliber bad.
If it's that good.
Yeah, like not even that. And in the version we found, even we had Spanish subtitles, and it's Turkish, so we really didn't hear any actual dialogue.
No, and we both did take Spanish.
Yeah,
there were certain points where I was like, okay, I kind of
found it enough. But when you see it, you don't really need to even know what they're saying.
Really.
And we'll dive into details of that masterpiece. But so that's the one little bonus nugget for you guys if you don't want to just hear
freaking great
us babble about the original Star Wars movies. But before we get to all that and dive into Turkish Star Wars, I guess just your initial origin tale of Star Wars. I guess we talked about this when we first started recording. We had the idea of doing commentaries, and we did our first one we ever did together was a commentary of the original New Hope 77 Star Wars. And so I guess if you don't mind retelling the tale of, like, so do you remember your earliest Star Wars memory?
My earliest Star Wars memory, which Gavin has heard many times at this point, it came out in 77, unless I'm incorrect. 77. And I was born in 1974, so I was 3 years old. And we were actually just talking about our own kids, like around 3-4 years old is where you start being able to actually form real memories. So as far as I know, unless I've just fabricated it for myself, my first real memory as a person who is alive and remembering things is going to see Star Wars with my older brother, Eric, and my mom. And I was so little, not only did I need a booster seat, but my mom had to like reach over and put her hand down to keep the seat down, because with the booster seat it was not heavy enough to keep the theater seat from flipping me up. And like the text started coming up, and I remember Mom leaning over and she's like, "A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away," because I couldn't read, and I can just remember from that point on just being absolutely sucked in, floored. I just loved it. And that Christmas we got Star Wars action figures, and I really liked chewing on Chewbacca's head for some reason. He's the only one who didn't have a net. So maybe somewhere in my head I was like, this is the one that won't choke me.
That's good thinking.
So, and Gavin also has a sort of
mine's
story.
A passed down story since I was born in 77, and I guess this came out in like May, and knowing my parents, they weren't lining up on the street to see it opening night or anything, but they did probably see it fairly early on, or I guess it was in the theaters probably the whole year. I don't think they probably took it out. So somewhere in that, a few months old though, they did take me and the brothers and just held me in the lap. My mom said that she just had me in there, so I'm like only a couple months old at this point. So as soon as the giant, Star Destroyer goes across the sky and everything, and my head just fell back and looked up, and she said I just didn't blink and didn't make a noise for the whole rest of the movie, and watched it with my eyes totally bugged out of my head. So I don't know if it's just programmed in, or if the love started early or what, but it probably explains so much.
It does. I will say,
I don't remember it.
If I might share that, if I'm not mistaken, one of the first things Gavin did with his own son was come home and make sure that the first movie that he ever saw was Star Wars.
It was pretty on par with that. Not the first theater movie, actually, strangely enough. First real one, we went and saw Rogue One on his birthday, so that was... He didn't make it through the whole thing, but it was more just because he got fidgety, and there was like an hour and a half of previews nowadays before it and stuff. He was pretty... He was kind of on par of how I think I was. When he was real little... Just a couple months, we went to the Bruin View and we saw James Bond. I don't remember which one it was.
They're all the same.
But I think it was the same kind of deal, though, where I was like, we're going to last like 5 seconds in here, but it's like a discount theater. It was only $3. I was like, whatever, I'll just take him out. But he didn't make a peep. He just watched all the cars, and which would probably scar him for life too. Just pistol whipping people and driving cars off of bridges. And I was like, probably not the best thing to show to a kid. But when the kids are that young, for any new parents out there, it is amazing how much you can get away with in that first 6 months when you think your life is over. But that comes later.
That's right. Oh boy!
So if you've just had your kid, put them in that little carry thing.
Go out now.
Yeah, go out to the bars and get the weird looks, because it's not gonna happen later. So.
The first place we ever took Anna James when she was a tiny infant was to the Wedge here in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
It was cold as fuck outside. But we just wrapped her up in a couple of coats and we put her in a thing. We went out and Jason and me were there. You guys might have been there. And we just had some beers.
Yeah, you could just sit there and swing them while they're just bundled up and drinking a beer, talking to their friends like nothing's changed. You know, you just got this
babies are idiots.
You just got this thing you have to hold.
Anything.
But then as soon as they start crawling or chirping,
or like having opinions.
Yeah, definitely. By that point, when they start running around and getting away from you, then it's like, yep. Can never go to a restaurant again, I guess. Like now I'm just dying to get back to the movie theaters. We can never go to a movie, you know. It's like, I'll go see any piece of crap movie now just because it's been so long.
Can I go? Can I go?
That's why parents get sucked into seeing Cars 3 or something. Like, yes, let's do it, man.
It would be probably tolerable. Well, as we speak, the Star Wars 8 is
it's on the way.
Just a matter of months away.
So, maybe by the time that this even comes out, it'll be very close.
Mm-hmm. And Gavin is wearing a Millennium Falcon t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm unprepared.
I did not prepare.
This is all intentional, but I guess Turkish Star Wars. We thought maybe we'd kick it off with that, since anybody that's listening that's had a ton of their own Star Wars thoughts and such over the years maybe hadn't heard of Turkish Star Wars.
This is the real piece of candy.
Yeah,
this is the one that you don't know.
This is a gem, and as of now, you can't watch the whole Spanish subtitles version on YouTube. So we'll put the link in the Facebook page. And you can just put it on while you're doing some laundry, drinking some beers, have band practice. And it's just as great visually as it would be with all what I'm assuming would be great dialogue.
Yeah, and that it's subtitled. I mean, it's actual the actual movie's in Turkish, so you're not going to understand it either way. I mean, it's fine.
But good Spanish practice, maybe for all young students out there trying to learn their Spanish. So Turkish Star Wars came out in 1982, and it's not just your average Star Crasher knockoff. Is that what it is with Hasselhoff?
With Hasselhoff, with Star Crash,
So that's what I was kind of expecting, just like bad tinfoil monsters and somebody with a
derivative plot. Oh no.
Probably would have been better if they just tried to actually follow the plot. But the big gold mine of ridiculousness in this movie is that they use actual footage from Star Wars.
They just stole it.
They just stole it and cut scenes that don't even make sense. There's they try to match it where it's if there's a space battle, there's at least space battles. But a lot of it jumps around so much.
Doesn't always happen.
He's watching, they're flying, and it's great because they'll have, and it kind of kicks off with that where it's a space battle is the first thing, and they got our two heroes are kind of flying around, and they actually have them in a few scenes where they're in almost a cockpit, but they've got the screen behind them playing Star Wars, and they're all in the shot with TIE fighters flying behind them.
And just sort of leaning from side to side, so maybe they're doing things.
Not even doing great acting as far as if you're going to fly a spaceship that's getting shot at you that much, you are not just grinning.
You're and what, the little buddy's name is Ali?
Ali and where's the other dude's name? Murat.
Murat, I could never catch that.
Murat, yeah, Murat and Ali, I guess. And they're the two kind of just buddies on par from the start. So it doesn't really even follow anything of Star Wars, character-wise or anything. They're both just about the same age.
And there appears to be no force or anything like that.
And kind of a lightsaber maybe later in it.
Oh my god, it's made out of plywood.
It's a plywood lightning bolt sword. So, but we'll get to that. So it's just weird that they would just cut, and like I said, it wasn't even just all space battle shit that you could cut into it. Mm-hmm. There's a few shots of them when they broke Princess Leia out of the detention bay, of them shooting the little radar or the little intercoms and stuff.
Yeah.
Whatever the hell those little boxes were they were blasting, and So that has like no. It was just like anything that's exploding, they would like just throw that in there.
And there's like just like intercut scenes from the cantina of aliens.
Yeah.
But then they've got their own horrible
that was a great
alien
scene.
makeup.
So, and then the other big one is the music. They actually steal the soundtrack, and not only Star Wars.
No.
Star Wars doesn't even like not use that much.
No.
They use Indiana Jones theme, like, and every time he jumps, it seems like it's dun 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 dun, and then like it cuts.
And he jumps a lot.
The whole movie. Yeah. They just like must have filmed him from below on a trampoline.
I think that Marat probably means kangaroo.
Totally. He is. He's just
Turkish.
jumping constantly.
That's what he does. He doesn't actually fight. He jumps over people.
That's so bad.
And then sometimes onto them.
Yeah, it never looks good. It's not like a graceful jump.
No.
Terrible angles. You just see like his crotch the whole time.
Sweaty
just
jump crotch.
And it's weird because they play like Indiana Jones over it, which is like ridiculous in itself. But every time it would be like he's jumping down like a hill to get to the bad guy. So they'd show him jumping, and you hear dun 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 dun, and it would cut back to the other guy, and it wouldn't have the music.
No.
But then it cuts back to him. It's like dun dun dun. And he's like, hey, dun, 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 dun.
Yeah.
Just like, it's like all chopped up, and it's so terrible. But
I think my favorite part of watching the movie was that, like, early on, there was a little snippet of other music they stole, and I was like, oh my god, I know that. And, like, it dawned on me within a couple of minutes that it was from the Flash Gordon soundtrack.
Yeah.
The Flash Gordon movie. And if you haven't seen that, that's a whole other episode.
That should come up in something.
But, oh my god, I was so pleased that I knew it was Flash Gordon. I was like, oh, I got it. It was like it was a test.
Yeah.
It was like,
there were a couple too, because I was like, it was driving me nuts. And then I tried to do some research on this, and it was like more stuff like that. It was like Flash Gordon, like Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
A couple of weird ones in there. It's like Chariots of Fire.
Why wouldn't it be?
Just throw it like Jaws or something, but like, but yeah, like with the research stuff, it was funny because I watched like it in pieces. It's pretty much impossible to just like watch. It's like an hour and a half. It's really long.
At least. Yeah.
It feels like, it's like dog minutes, so it feels like 6 hours long, but I found some site that like basically laid out the outline, and I was like, oh, that's what was going on. So then I went back and kind of scanned and watched it, and I was like, oh, okay. So I was able to kind of piece together, because that's kind of like one of the main jokes of it too, is just like the plot's so like convoluted and doesn't make any sense if you're just watching it, whether you know the languages or not. And so maybe I should just read through the quick outline, and they're all kind of just one-line summaries where it starts with the space battle. Very bad Star Wars scenes behind them. Then they do a desert hike, which kind of makes sense with Star Wars, where they get stranded on a desert thing. Skeletons attack them on horses, which by skeletons I mean like Karate Kid type people in really bad skeleton costumes. Attack them for no reason. They get captured by them and taken to the main villain, who's basically
get captured a lot.
Yeah, like 6 times. It comes up over and over, and the main bad guy's just like a wizard, no like Darth Vader knockoff. Even he looks more like something from. A lot of it resembles like Power Ranger battles almost, and that's even being flattering to it. And the villain is apparently from Earth, and there's some subplot that I wasn't able to follow about a brain where they're following.
They do show a brain.
Yeah, I wasn't able to piece that together, where they're trying to take his human brain to reconquer Earth or something. But there's sort of a love interest when they get captured, but they just stare at each other real creepy.
And then she smiles.
Yeah, there's no like actual. I think he finally
on.
kisses her or something. But zombies attack the cave that they're captured in. Some kind of weird zombies. That's a huge epic battle. They get away, and then they hide in a bar. What you're saying, which was probably the best part of the whole thing, was because they take a bad bar scene and they just like if they're just filming them in a white room, like close-up shots, and then they cut to like a really bad alien with like a paper mache head. And then they cut to the technically bad aliens from the first Star Wars, and then it just cuts back and they take another drink, and then it's just like, and then some kind of bad knockoff brawl happens
He does.
And then they fight a big monster, I think, by that point, and then they get recaptured again by knights this time.
Yes.
They fight a big green monster.
There's like some shitty robot dudes.
Yeah, I think that's what they said, knights, but I wasn't sure if they were supposed to be robots. But then that's when the lightning sword comes into play.
Yeah,
some
it's great.
epic Excalibur kind of thing. And they get recaptured again after that, and a bunch more fights break out. Ali dies, actually.
He gets blowed up.
Yeah, and a weird thing, because he gets thrown against a wall a bunch of times by the main bad guy when you think he's going to die.
Yeah.
But then they actually kind of get it together, and out of nowhere, he's like, I'm out of here, and he runs through an entrance, and he just blows up. And
I don't know if he was like... I felt like maybe what happened in that scene is like, bad guy was like, you can't get out of the only one exit because it's been bombed. And he's like, I will sacrifice myself for you, Marat. And he just runs before his buddy can stop him, and then he gets blowed up, and his buddy's like, no.
Yeah, it's real sad. He holds him in his arms and gives him a little kiss, and but it's really weird. There must have been something lost on that. We'll give him that one in the translation. There must have been some reason why running through that doorway just killed
I think
him.
He was being heroic. Yeah.
So he wasn't being...
But there's a scene earlier where Ali is sort of like, he's strapped down to a machine.
Yeah, there's a lot of...
But there's like an evil Ali.
Yeah, because he gets a little like brainwashed. I think there's some of that going on.
Maybe that's what it's going on. Yeah.
And I think, and then the synopsis I read that pieced it all together said something about him making a foolish decision to try to escape. He dies.
Damn it, Ollie. Why didn't you listen to Murad or whatever his name is?
He's like, I'm sorry.
To Turkish Han Solo.
So, so I wasn't really sure who was supposed to be the Han Solo and who was supposed to be the Luke, but probably the Han Solo died. And where am I? And then they get, after he dies, boom, melts the sword down into gloves and boots.
Indestructible gloves and boots.
Which is an awesome weapon to have, like metal gloves that can... Gold gloves, I guess, that can cut people in half.
They
chops a few people really poorly in half.
Yeah.
And I was like, was that the main bad guy? I'd mixed up who was even the people at that point that he was chopping in half.
Yeah.
But then shit really gets bad where he fights the main bad guy. He doesn't chop him in half like Darth Maul style.
No,
he
the other way.
fights him like vertically in half. And then I didn't even catch the first 20 times of scanning through this. Like, that's what they were doing. But when they would flash to the chopped in half.
Yeah, they just put like
a black.
Half of him is black. Yeah,
like half the screen was.
Somebody was just holding an index card.
I was like, "What is somebody just got their thumb in front of the camera?"
No, he's chopped in half.
Yeah, he's chopped in half.
Follow the plot, man.
Yeah, and I guess that means they win. So, and then the movie wraps up with him flying off in the Millennium Falcon.
It does. It really does.
Just flying off into the sunset. With footage from the actual
from Star Wars.
Not even a knockoff Falcon. It was like the real.
My favorite part is how, like, this movie is so bad. Like, I realize it's from like another country, and maybe they didn't have like the special effects technology in 1982 or whatever it was. But like, this movie is so weird and so disjointed. It's like, it's not just like they've never seen Star Wars. It's like they've never seen a movie.
Yeah.
Or maybe that they've never seen acting.
Yeah. It's bad editing,
It's every part of it is terrible.
Like, almost, but still, like, with movies, it's like, I understand, like, somebody just hits record and you don't know how to play your guitars and you don't, that's like 2 minutes of your life. It's like, whatever. Yeah. We don't know what we're doing, but we made this song. But, like, even this horrible film where nobody had it together, like, that still took like a lot of organizing and a lot of people wasted time. It's like,
and then people put it together,
me.
Like people with brains who had seen things and presumably ever read a story with the beginning, a middle, and end. Then later took all that footage and they're like, this is the best we can do. This is as close to a coherent plot as we can make.
Maybe we should take out one of the times we get captured.
My second favorite memory of the movie is how early on in the movie they're riding along. They're just like riding hell bent on horses through the desert, and then they encounter like the robot knight stormtroopers or whatever, and they're like, choo, 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 pew, 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 and they get blasted off their horses, and so they show Ali. He's the first one. He stands up and then does like, and he looks over at Marat. Marat stands up and and he stands up. But then they cut back to Ali. He just stands up again.
It's like, how many times did this thing?
Yeah. Did you fall down again in the middle, man? What is that?
That'd be funnier if they just kept it going on a loop while they just did it over.
The whole movie is that where you're like, why am I seeing him jump again?
Yeah. Like the editing might be the worst part of it. There's so many like weird just jump cuts where you're just like no like perspective, like we'll just like pan over to like a side and he'll be coming in through like the left side, but then he pans over and then he's coming to the right. Just like what the hell? Like anybody that's ever tried to like film anything like could put together that you probably should just keep.
Just like maybe things in Turkey just aren't as linear.
Yeah, man. So I don't know. I guess with all the stuff. Oh, and it's not even just Star Wars footage. It's like stock footage of like NASA launches and stuff. In the beginning, there's like a few shots of just like rockets going up and stuff.
And I think there might be like maybe some volcano explosions and shit.
Just like National Geographic shit. Like,
we'll steal anything. We don't give a shit.
I don't know how they got away with that. It seems like even.
I just think at the time, like in 1982, they're probably like, yeah, we don't give a shit.
Right.
Oh yeah, please sue us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it made like somewhere around $4 probably.
But it like did well enough, at least over a long term, that there was a sequel.
Yeah, 2006 apparently. Probably way better made. I'm assuming everyone's kind of making it as a joke, you know? Like, there's no way anybody was like,
I think
my full vision, like a George Lucas thing, like the Turkish George Lucas. I was like, it was never meant to be one movie.
We didn't have the technology.
Yeah, now we do to edit.
Since the whole middle movie is supposed to be a pod race.
Yeah. And I started to read a synopsis of it, but I got like so bored and confused.
I couldn't do it. I just assumed it was horrible.
Yeah, I figured it was like, it would just be.
But I think what I read online was that they got most of the original cast back.
Except Ali.
Ali. He blew up. And it was called Son of the Man Who Saved the World.
Yeah. That sounds right.
Which is kind of intriguing, other than the first movie was terrible.
Yeah. And nothing really to latch on to, like, I hope they bring back the skeletons on horseback. That would be cool.
Like the robots are all covered in like foam rubber, and then there's like monsters that are just covered in fake fur.
Yeah, it was not winning any.
You should YouTube and watch.
Yeah,
whoever you are out there,
it's worth a few minutes of your life. Just
zip through it. Yeah,
what the hell?
Move along to the next ridiculous thing. It'll be good.
And I don't know. I think that's all I got on that. How about you? Any closing thoughts?
It was, we've talked about some bad movies.
This kind of
this one, it almost does not qualify as a movie.
Yeah,
it is just shit crammed together.
Not even like The Room bad, but like this is just straight up like almost unwatchable.
Yes,
but more just confusing because it is knocking off Star Wars so much, but it has nothing to do with Star Wars.
No,
so it's so weird. It's like,
so you can't follow. They would have better off just to be like, well, let's just take all the special effects scenes and use those and put in our own scenes, to fill in the other parts. But they didn't do that.
No, it doesn't make any sense. But, well, maybe we should move on then. I kind of wish both of them had died. That's my closing.
Yeah.
All of it.
Just end it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but then you couldn't have the Son of the Man Who Saved the World.
True.
And you'd feel like a doofus.
Without that 1982. So that even came out before Return of the Jedi. So
it did.
Think of the possibilities. They couldn't even rip off Java. All right, well, moving on to the original Star Wars, the actual Star Wars. Let's take a look at these fine films, and I guess we should note at the beach we did not watch them. I think I said earlier in the correct order, but we watched them
in reverse.
I don't know why, if it was intentional. Did you threw on Jedi earlier?
I think that
just grabbed the wrong one. Or?
No, I grabbed one. It was Return of the Jedi, and I was putting it in. just because it was the first one that I picked up, and it was in that moment the one I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And like if you have a 4-year-old, 5-year-old child, like I'm probably not going to get to see any. Like I won't get to finish this. So like I'm just going to grab the thing that I want right now, and hopefully I'll get through it before the kid wakes up from the nap or whatever. So I just went with it, and then we got through it, and I was like, oh. So now what do I do? I don't know what to do now. I didn't think we'd get to watch anything else. So I just was like, well, we'll go in reverse order. Yeah. I mean, because secretly the middle one's the best.
Yeah, I don't know what the... That's what I was wondering, subconsciously maybe, because I always like my go-to. Of course, like a lot of people, strangely enough, might be one of the only classic trilogies where the majority probably does think Empire is probably the best one.
Yeah, for sure.
I think, I'm definitely in that boat, but maybe at the beach we don't want to watch fucking people putzing around in the snow, and maybe the sand relation of Jabba and stuff was just in your head, and you're like, I want to see some beach Star Wars. Which
that freaking tendril onion ring head man, he's all dead Jabba nobody.
He's awesome. He's gonna be a feature Halloween.
Oh my god!
At some point.
Just stuff a bunch of weird pantyhose.
He's to come, onion ring man.
Yeah.
But should we talk about him in reverse order?
Let's do it.
Maybe we should.
Let's do it.
We thought against it, but why not? So yeah, we threw on Return of the Jedi, and it wasn't contrived that we were going to watch them all, because like you said, we just didn't even think we'd make it through half.
No, I didn't think we'd make it through the first
And we
movie.
still kind of ducked out at parts, but take our word for it. We've seen them.
Once or twice.
A couple of times when you gotta make sure your kid's not drowning in a baby pool in the porch.
Exactly.
Sometimes you gotta pop out and get a new deli sandwich and your fifth bag of Doritos.
Yes, and a mimosa.
Yeah, so a lot of Jedi watching. That was probably the one we were most glued to, though. I think we were. It was cool. It was good watching it again. I had a couple new revelations, but otherwise, I think it's a great third sequel. Some people are a little hard on it. Like, when you look at the purist, maybe, they're like, some fucking Ewoks and...
I don't
and
know.
It does seem the most sequel-y out of all of them, but...
Yeah, I don't know that it stands up as its own movie as well as the first two.
Yeah.
Which is a downfall of a lot of movies, like especially nowadays where people want like sequels and interrelated universes and whatever. It's never just one movie. It's never just one story. It's a bigger story. And so often the failure is that they kind of seem to lose sight of that one movie, whether it's the first, the second, the third, like it has to be a good movie. Otherwise, like who gives it? It doesn't matter. Like the rest of the trilogy doesn't matter. Because I'm not going to sit down ever and watch 6 hours plus of movies, so all at once anyway. So I think more than the other two, it suffers from not being a great movie unto itself. Outside of it's the capstone to the others, like you know, and so you get some answers and you get some some
stuff's further developed, but
yeah,
as far as like some of the structure of things of like the first time that there's like, and there's another Death Star, you know, it definitely starts to feel like Austin Powers 4 in a sense, where you're just kind of doing the same shit, you know, and it's like, and that's even kind of from an older perspective as a kid, I didn't really care. I was like, well, yeah, they built one Death Star. Why couldn't they build another?
I mean,
there's probably going to be another Death Star.
I mean, just sort of logistically, in real world, sort of tedious, you know, in day in, day out life. Yeah. I mean, because it's like, you know, like if you had a machine gun and somebody busted it, you'd be like, well, that machine gun was pretty good. We should build another one. So, like, it makes sense. But story-wise, I mean, you know, this is not the real world we're dealing with.
Right.
So.
And the fact of, like, Luke and Leia being brother and sister, I felt, in hindsight, you know, whatever it is, what it is, but, like, is a bit of, like, they're just trying to come up with another twist because the I'm Your Father was so big in Empire that they're like, wow, what else could we take it up a notch, you know? But,
and they borderline boned at that one point.
I mean, in a galaxy far, far away, it's hard to say what the rules are. But
who knows how genetics work?
Yeah, maybe they figured all that out already. But a little weird. A little weird that they would even just take it there. You know, like you think it would be enough to like, well, we should come up with something else.
I feel like watching that revelation, the third, maybe watch them in reverse is like the thing you should do. Well, you watch that revelation and you watch it in reverse, and it really kind of makes you start thinking like, I believe like they kind of had an idea where their story was going, but did they really know that was going to happen?
I don't think so.
Because I don't think so. No.
And because it is a bit more slapstick and the sequel-y feeling of like, well, let's just wrap this shit up. Like he definitely didn't have any idea of like, well, this thing's gonna go on for like 3 sagas worth. I mean, I think he always had like it would be cool if it could, and and like. In his head, but like I think pretty was much by the end of like wrapping up Jedi that everybody was like, yeah, this is it, it's done, So that's why they didn't make it even more epic than they did, It's like, let's just give it the predictable ending and everything.
And the happy, and Lando claps at the end.
Yeah, everyone's fine, and there's a lot of just like, okay, cool, it's done. But I don't know, so that's kind of weird, and Lucas, you could go all day on like calling him out on shit. But
what is your sort of highlight moment from the third film? I mean, rather than just
favorite scene,
just favorite scene or best revelation or kind of best moment.
I think my favorite parts about it are one, the lightsaber fight. I think is badass. Probably still my favorite, maybe just because it's got the passion.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, like when he just loses.
He's just fucking chopping wood, man.
Yeah, that's great, man. Yeah, because it's still kind of clumsy. As much as I like what they do with the newer stuff, like of like having the choreography done a lot better, and it's like more like, oh damn, that's cool, and visually they've just gone up, so much with what they can do, but like. Just that still being kind of old school style where it's a bit clunky and the lightsabers seem like they're real heavy and he just snaps and tears up Darth.
Wailing on Darth.
Yeah, and it's just, I think it's like that passion side of it too where he just finally did it when he was like, no, and gets him. And it's such a long build up and that even intercut to the space battle of actually blowing up the Death Star, which I think is kind of stupid that they did have another Death Star, but at the same time, that one's just like so much cooler. Like that whole battle. And like water, it's a trap, and Lando, and even just the flying to the trenches of. They made it a little more difficult. Little stupid that they still put a part on it that could blow up the whole thing.
You would think.
Like all it takes is one wall.
Yeah.
Just put a wall there.
I think that what makes it excusable, though, is the revelation that the Emperor, he absolutely knows that those plans have been stolen that time. And he absolutely heard that the fact that it's there is a draw. And it's gonna pull. He's like, because it's fully operational, bleep blopper, and whatever. And he's gonna, like he wants the rebels to come and try to destroy this thing. And if you destroy it in 400,000 troops or whatever, that's fine because I'm hoping to turn Luke Skywalker and get rid of Darth and rule forever and wipe out Admiral Akbar and the fleet and all that stuff. Like if it had worked. That's a good plan, So yeah, do you think so? That's another thing you don't really catch on the first 400 times watching it is when he's like, I knew that this could fire. So it was like part of his plan was not only to destroy them all in the space battle, but he was like totally planning to just blow up like a good chunk of his own people. I think he was fine with it, because that dude doesn't fucking
he didn't like even bat an eye. There was like a lot of people, like of his troops and shit, like. Whether it was just like maybe all the people that had screwed up, but you didn't get any indication.
You've been reassigned to the new Death Star
of Endor.
Good luck.
Yeah, so it's like he was ready to just blow up the moon of Endor and all his people on there too. Like, not all of them, but a good chunk.
Yeah, I feel like it was because it was all for the Emperor. I think it was all about if I can turn Luke Skywalker, the sort of prophesied whatever. Yeah. Prophesied, is that a word? Good enough.
Star Wars, everything's for
yeah, exactly. Then it will work because I will have sort of the power in the Force and the already existing sort of cult of personality to just gather everybody together, and I'll have destroyed the rebels.
Yeah.
You know, and or broken them, if not completely eradicated.
Yeah. All the important ones.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, and I think that was the plan. So I think that being his sort of actual thrust, his plan, sort of excuses, like, then because then in the first one, the Death Star is not just set dressing. It's like this actual threat that it's incredible. In the third one, it's just kind of like, I just need to get you here.
Maybe that's why they didn't finish building
your asses up. And if you don't get here and I finish building this thing that's going to destroy some planets, that's cool too.
Yeah.
You know? Huh. So I think
maybe it was all just a shell, like they didn't even have like a Chick-fil-A in it.
Exactly. Well, it wouldn't be open on Sundays anyway. All the guys schedule work on Sunday, like, oh fuck, great.
This one doesn't even have a gap in it. It's like the other one is so much better. But
I think that it works for that.
Yeah, that's cool. What about you? What are your favorite two or many parts of Jedi? Like,
as a kid, I really, really liked the Ewoks.
Yeah.
And I think that there's some mythological sort of like, if you were born before whatever, you liked the Ewoks. If you're born after, or born, vice versa. But so apparently I was born, post.
I was totally on board with the Ewoks.
I was like, oh man, these guys are cool, and they're like stabbing people.
I don't think I ever quite got how they could kill a lot of stormtroopers, but I didn't really care.
But like the stormtroopers are completely useless.
They never really
stormtroopers.
Exactly.
You could flick a paper football at them.
It was like throwing
and homeroom
at
it.
It just like fell over. But
so it doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's fun, and I like the speeder bikes.
Yeah,
I thought that was a cool scene, and the lightsaber battle between Darth and
the Jabba shit's cool, but it's such a long build up. But I guess you just have to get Han out of there somehow. So parts of that, and it got a bit tainted by the whole Slice Noodles extra dance sequence. I'm trying not to just bash on prequels and special editions, but that really takes a lot out of that.
I can remember like very consciously thinking as a kid, like even at an age when I was not old enough to kind of work it out. Mm-hmm. Like, okay, so the Sarlacc pit, you fall into it and it digests you for 1,000 years?
Yeah.
Like, does it keep you alive somehow? Because you would just die.
Yeah, like in a week.
Even if you just died of old age.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, can you not somehow use the Sarlacc pit to extend human life?
Yeah. Maybe that's why it was so badass. It just keeps you, keeps giving you little chicken nuggets while it's eating you slowly.
And how does that work? Does it start at the toes? Is it?
It doesn't even sound that bad. You probably live longer being tortured.
You're kind of I'm stuck in there, but I've got my iPad, so I'm kind of good.
If you're kind of a lazy dude,
it doesn't make any sense.
Maybe that's how they explain bringing Boba Fett back at some point. He'll be half digested.
He'll pull himself out in his arms, all crappy and shit.
Probably do some crap like that.
If it keeps you alive for 1,000 years, he could actually show up in the Force Awakens set of movies.
Yeah. How's that for a prediction?
Holy
we haven't even gotten to the predictions yet. Don't count Boba out, baby. But I had two revelations the last time watching it that are kind of just stupid but worth noting.
Okay.
And I didn't fact check this because our internet just went down, but they're throwing around General a lot. And definitely Lando, right?
Yeah, General Calrissian and General Solo.
Yeah, so if you think about it, though, Han he'd been frozen since Empire.
Yeah, he was
everyone thought,
just a big bar of chocolate.
But then he got frozen. He escaped back, and then he's a general, but going to Endor. Why would they make him a general just because he got unfrozen?
But Mustache Dude in Empire already calls him Sir.
Yeah.
So maybe
Commander or something?
Commander or something like that.
I think, in Empire.
So maybe
seems like some rank issues are...
maybe it's just like, you might as well be a general because you got frozen in carbonite.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't care about Java. It wasn't like the rebels were like...
And like that does not jive. Actually,
he's all like half blind and doesn't like make any sense.
Yeah, and they're just like, why don't you
make him a general? And then even weirder almost, like Lando does it like he was like the dude that like betrayed Princess Leia. Yes. Like maybe give it an extra 6 months before you promote him to a general.
And she's just like, how does it work? I mean, like maybe if you're and like the Rogue One is, we'll talk about it, but it's like sort of a interesting juxtaposition because that's more of a gritty, like real,
army movie,
enlisted man army movie. Like, why are these dudes following fucking Lando?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, and even if you take all that with, they gave Luke a X-Wing pretty much right off the bat. And we'll talk about that in the first one. But, like, it just seems kind of weird that maybe General isn't quite as the honor to us as it is to them in a galaxy far, far away.
Maybe. I mean, it's a long time ago.
But we'll see. But on top of that, and maybe it ties into, how much time do you think passed between Empire, as in a segue, I guess, into Empire 2, between the end of Empire Strikes Back into Return of the Jedi? Because it seems like it could be a good chunk of time, but at the same time... I
think, having never really considered it, and I don't mean that, I'm sure there are people who have.
Yeah, there's probably like a whole book written about it.
I think... just like my gut tells me, it's been like 6 months.
Yeah, like under a year still, like, because Lando's like leaving to go look for him at the end of Empire. Like him and Chewie are cool, and they're like, all right, we're doing this. Luke's got his robot hand, but there's some huge jumps in the sense of like, all of a sudden Luke's like just this badass Jedi after he just kind of got taken down pretty quick by, and it's like, how much time
and
really
he didn't go back to train?
Yoda. No, he did it all like, he's putzing around in some cave, man. He made a new lightsaber, which is impressive.
He did, and I mean, like 6 months is kind of a long time. But the weird thing is, like, Yoda makes a big point of he's too old. I'm not going to train him.
Yeah,
and that's too late. But clearly, you can learn a whole hell of a lot if you're talented in the Force in a short amount of time. And in the prequels, like, it's not just like they're kids. Yeah. So it's not that he's too young or too old. It's that he has missed like 15 years of training.
Right. Yeah, so there's a lot, and even just the death of Yoda, or how he's pretty spry in Empire. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, which could happen, he could just...
He's 900.
Yeah, he gets Yoda.
You don't know what it's like for a 900.
But maybe that was their way of sort of saying that it's longer than we think.
Maybe so.
Maybe there's a possibility. It was like, because really, even the movies, it's only, 3 years? So maybe at least
maybe it's been 3 years. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, maybe it's on semi-real time, because Empire Strikes Back came out in 1980. Return of the Jedi is 1983, so maybe about 3 years.
And like all of the actors aged 3 years, so their characters reasonably could maybe what that does. But what has Luke? That's interesting.
What the hell did he do to train himself instead of just going back to Yoda?
Like if that's the case, it's been 3 years, then I very specifically want to know what that story is, because he becomes a pretty badass Jedi with some sweet black clothes.
Yeah, because confidence level is definitely through the roof.
Yes! Like, at that point, and why did it take you that long to find Han or come up with a plan or decide to go get him? Because you knew who wanted him.
Yeah.
And you know where that
it didn't
dude
take
is.
that much detective work.
Yeah.
And the plan they came up with wasn't really that solid when you really look at it. It's like, well, we'll all turn ourselves in, and then we'll all just kill them all.
Exactly. And let's hope that he doesn't just melt down the droids.
Yeah.
Because we're going to need that lightsaber.
Lightsaber's inside it. Yeah, there's a lot of...
But I mean, all those things are things you can kind of look past, I think.
Yeah, no like huge loopholes, but just more wondering as a nerd.
Yeah, but I think it does, like, specific to the third movie, it does kind of make you sort of be like, No, because it's the weaker movie.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, or maybe because it's the next movie. It doesn't sort of make you reflect backwards on Empire.
Yeah.
Because Empire is the strongest movie of the batch.
Yeah.
And it's the most, probably because it's the most dramatic, you know? Like, I mean, like, that's where the shit really hits the fan.
Yeah.
And when you leave the theater, you're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen.
It did such a great job of, like, because the first one is so, like, just kind of fun fantasy movie or whatever, and, like, that one, it was strange just looking it up for this, Empire Strikes Back, where they went with the different director for that, Irving Kershner there, and how he was known for, apparently, character development was, like, his big thing, like, whether Lucas chose him for that or not. And he said he just loves, like, zooming in on people really close up, and, like, having, like, long shots of them just, like, dialogue with their faces and stuff like that, and that's why everyone was like, how they... Yeah, but then I thought about it, I was like, yeah, like, with him, like, and Princess Leia, like, yelling at each other and shit, and a lot of just, like, cool, like, close-ups and stuff, and that's kind of, like, the cool thing about that is he took, like, this kind of throwaway fun action sci-fi movie from the first one, but then you like really made everybody fall in love with the characters by the second one, and then by the third one you could do whatever you needed to do.
Just put a bow on it.
Yeah, because there is like when you watch it, I'm still amazed even when I show it to like my kid, he's like into it because it pulls you in, but there isn't really a lot going on as far as like by today's action movie standards, it's definitely slow. Like there's like they're just kind of hanging out and doing shit, and then like some epic stuff will happen, and then like they kind of just hang out again, and you know it's like a lot of downtime, which makes it like an actual movie. I think that's why people love it because it has those moments like that lightsaber might be better in hindsight, but. It's bad. So, do you have a favorite lightsaber battle?
It's not the one with Darth and Obi-Wan.
No. That's like the most boring lightsaber.
Oh my god!
But you know, it got it all started, so it's good.
Yeah. It might be the one in Empire between Darth and Luke because it leads, like, not only is the action good, but you get to see kind of more Force use, like Darth throwing things at him and stuff. Like, you don't really, in the first one, you never get much of a sense of what the hell the Force is, what it can do, and you kind of get an idea there. And, like, Luke is powerful enough to hold his own, even though he ultimately kind of loses. And he's like mentally strong enough to be like, gotta tap out. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And those are both impressive things.
And on multiple views of like realizing that Darth's holding back. You know, like it took me a while. I was like, well, he did pretty good. He got like one good hit in, and then this and that, and then like, oh, he could have totally just destroyed him in like 5 seconds if he wanted to.
You would think.
So like. It's kind of funny. As a kid, I never really put that together. I'm like, man, he's a scrappy little fella, even when he didn't do it. It's like, nah, he could have like just thrown his ass off the bridge.
If you would think.
Like, especially after seeing like the shit from Rogue One and like knowing the epic, probably could have just strangled him from across the room. But anyway, but your favorite? You think that's your favorite?
I think that's probably it. Yeah, I think that's good, and it leads all up. It all leads up to the revelation at the end. Yeah, you know, which is kind of the biggest individual moment.
Yeah, I put in the Force Awakens one as a contender though too. That last one, maybe cut out the Finn part of it with the lightsaber. We'll get to that, but like, I mean, just the visual side of like the blue and the red with the snow and how just cool that all was.
It is good
because I loved that about Empire for a long time. Like I loved the passion of the Jedi fight, but I love like how it starts out and like where they froze Han with the orange and the blue, just like the colors, and you see like the silhouette of Darth Vader, and it's just like kind of scary, but you know, like, oh fuck, like, you know? So like that's just like, and then just going into like that space room with the doors shut real quick. Never understood like that is a safety hazard.
Like you better get your ass through
no
that
door should ever close that quick, man. That thing would be terrible with a carriage or something to try to get you. Oh my
Sorry.
goodness. But a sidetrack. But Empire, so your favorite of the original 3, you think too?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I would think that most people would say so.
Yeah. And at the beach, you know, like I was saying, maybe we just didn't want to watch a snowy movie. Like we love the snow battles and It's funny too, like going back to what we were saying of like the earliest memories. It's funny because being a whatever month born, I don't remember obviously seeing the first one in the theater, but like, and I guess it's because they re-released stuff so much even back in the old days because stuff wasn't coming out on VHS even like because it came out in '80. So I mean, I still would have only been 3. But I remember seeing it like in the theater, and it must have been like 4 or 5, like 4 actually. Mm-hmm. And I have distinct memories of going to the mall and seeing it. Then that's like a year later, so they must have either just kept them in the theaters back then, or they would like bring them back for little special viewings and stuff. Because we got to the point where we would just go see like the snow battle and leave and then walk around the mall. Like we saw it so many times in the theater with Jeff Butler and his mom, like where she would watch us for the day and drop us off at the mall, and like me and my brother and Jeff Butler, we would just go see like the snow battle, and we'd go walk around, and then we'd come back maybe and see the lightsaber fight or something. And like we'd seen it like so many times, and it was yeah, it's weird because then like. Yeah, then we'll talk about Jedi too, but I guess we already talked about Jedi.
We did.
I saw that one in the theater. Did you see it, all of them in the theater then?
I did, yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I remember going, I want to say it wasn't like opening weekend probably, but we saw it in the theater. And I remember because my brother's 4th grade teacher already spoiled it to him, but we were kind of fine with spoils. I guess she was like, yeah, it's awesome, but Yoda dies. And we're like, what? Yoda dies? And went into it knowing that Yoda dies, and that was kind of bummed out. We had bought a couple of the toys in advance, and Owen was all like, I think he bought like relevant characters, but I was like, I guess 3 or 4 or something. So I was like, the biker scout I really love because I was like, this is like a crazy looking stormtrooper. He's gonna be the new main star. He's awesome. And I also bought a Squid Man, who's like some dipshit that hung out. You know what I'm talking about? He looked like kind of like a squid head. And
stupid.
Didn't have any lines or anything. I was like, well, this dude's clearly gonna be like the new.
He's awesome.
He's gonna be like the new Chewbacca or something. I was like, nope. So,
he might still lose time.
He'll get his own spin-off probably.
Oh man, Squid Man Revenge.
But I loved in Empire the deeper going into Vader and Han in specific. I think that's where Han becomes more than just the kind of goofball he is in the first one of like, hey, I'm in it for the money,
Yeah.
Like,
or he just comes back to save day on a whim.
Yeah.
Really, in the first one.
Yeah, so there's not really much. And even Darth Vader, when you think about the first New Hope, there is like, he just kind of has a lot of hype. But I guess he's like kind of has those board meeting moments.
It's
where he's
force choking people.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I feel like this one, he's actually like, patrolling the Star Destroyer, and he's on a mission. He's pacing around. He's got shit to say, and like people are getting choked left and right at that point. So it is cool.
Admiral Piet.
Another time lapse question: how do you feel about Luke's time on Dagobah? What the hell's going on there?
It doesn't seem like it lasts very long, which again just makes the prequel seem weird because they trained them for like their entire adolescence. Yet Luke is already 20 at least when he starts, and can't be more than
just because he's swinging on a couple of vines. You can hold your own against Darth Vader.
Yeah,
he didn't really do anything except some like cardio.
Yeah, and like Yoda is very much like you got to do the training and stuff and things, but he doesn't do that stuff.
Yeah.
So was it always that easy? Were they just like, I mean, we could do the 6 months version. It's fine.
Cram it.
Yeah, I mean, like all this other shit is just like how to read star maps and fly a fucking whatever. Fuck it. This is
be a pilot.
Is it that?
I can already do that. I can already shoot swamp rats with my
Womp rats from yeah. So it's like the actual using of the Force. If you're talented, they're just like, look, you just do the thing, and you got a such and such or whatever, and you're done.
Yeah,
you're good.
Watch out for Wampus.
Because then, by the next movie, they're like, "Oh, you're a true Jedi. You didn't do anything.
It's like all I did was make a lightsaber and put on a priest outfit.
Yeah,
son of a Jedi.
It's weird. Yes,
pretty weird.
Maybe it was a long time, but then if it were even 6 months, what the hell were Han and Leia doing?
Yeah, and they weren't, because it was all like, they got here before you did, so it was like a quick turnover.
Yeah.
Because Lando couldn't have kept that shit going for...
No,
weeks, you know? That was like a day and a half, maybe.
No. But of course, everybody wears the same clothes every day in Star Wars universe, so there's no way to know.
True. Another mystery. Time is very...
Time.
Maybe that was why it's a long time.
It is a galaxy a long time ago and a far, far away. So maybe
we keep going back to that.
Time
that's
moves
like the ultimate
at a different pace.
A different pace for sure. Yeah, man. Any other Empire thoughts? Snowwalkers?
Man,
a little impractical, but they're awesome.
Yeah, they're ridiculous. if they make sense for sort of an all-terrain vehicle. In the same way that sort of a person would, because we can walk on lots of terrains. But if you can tip them over that easily, you would think they would have figured that out.
Yeah, and they get to where they're going. It's going to take at least 45 minutes.
Yeah, they're not fast.
Out of them. I always thought that they transported troops and stuff.
Yeah.
So what do they do? Like, how do you get out of those things? Do they have just like an elevator? At
which point you get picked off.
Why
wouldn't you just wait until they got there and be like, yeah.
That makes sense. I heard that there might be like a revised version in the new one.
Yeah, like an ape-ish one. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, I thought it would make sense if the legs just kind of compact into it so that it shrinks down so they can just walk out of it.
This one apparently has like more robust forelimbs, as it were, that sort of, and maybe more of a gorilla walk so that it can't just be tipped over as easily. But still,
Snoke's like, just make it so a damn fuzzy bear can't.
Yeah, how the hell do you get out of it?
Yeah,
that's a good thing. Like, do you just have to dangle a rope? In which case, it's not that good.
Out of it. Yeah, it's like, well, we lost 6 getting out of it, but
and there was only 12 of us,
so half our troops are in the building. Half the troops are in the building. Cool, man. Well, let's go on to 1977, the one that kicked it all off.
The real deal.
We were just tiny little boys. Little youngsters. So
directed by George Lucas himself.
The man. The ultimate vision.
Yep.
It's like, all right,
and I would argue probably his most successful sort of realization of a vision.
Yeah.
Because he had the limitations that he seems to need and the sort of urge to create and be creative and push boundaries that he seems to have. And like, it was the perfect spot. Like, we've talked before about how like the movie Tron can only have been made at a certain point in time, because like any earlier nobody would have wanted to or could have, and any time after nobody wanted to anymore, because there were other technologies that came along and other ideas and other visuals. And so, like, it's like the perfect sort of blend of, I'm George Lucas, I want to push that envelope as far as I can and do these things visually, visual effects wise, with the story. Like, the technology limited him in the healthiest way possible. Because we see in the prequels, like, what happens when he has the unlimited ability to fuck around with shit. And it sucks.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you wonder how different it would have been, like, maybe because the story wasn't as good, or was it just that maybe the technology overtook it, in a Darth Vader kind of weird comparison. So, but like, if like he had all that technology, would the story of the original Star Wars would have also sucked,
Ooh, so. I think that he probably, if he had the same sort of ability to just fuck with it continuously.
Yeah. Because, I mean, I guess we kind of saw that with the special editions.
Like that it would not be as good. I still think it probably would have been huge.
Better than Phantom Menace.
Yes, at the time, because, like, I mean, shit. I just dropped something on your floor. Sorry. I still think, like, the summer blockbuster didn't really exist until Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, and the action movie summer blockbuster, as a matter of course, also didn't exist. So I think that it still would have been more successful than the Phantom Menace, but I don't think that it would have been as good. Like, I think that sometimes having sort of limits enforced upon you by the outside world or technology in this case or whatever are actually a healthy thing.
Oh yeah,
Because I never once as a kid thought, oh, it looks like a Vaseline smudge underneath that land speeder. Like you just thought, oh, that's cool. It's a flying car. That's awesome.
It is
like,
what it is because the story's so good and it pulls you in. Yeah, you don't really sit around and question that crap. And it's kind of unfortunate, and it's kind of like that with any art, when the bands get like so big, it's like, wow, U2 can't make a decent album. No. It's like they'll just keep like trying to make something way too epic. I was like, just get a boombox and
it's a mole digging in a hole.
It's like no,
it's not a mole.
Just listen to Joshua Tree. Take notes and do exactly what you did,
but with new words and music.
It's like. It's a good.
I do think it's like part of the doom of the prequels is that nothing was going to live up to the expectations of however many years of anticipation. So that's part of it, but a big part of it
and that one came kind of out of the blue that they were doing the prequels because we had all like accepted the fact that it was done and we moved on with our lives, and it was just like this cherished little moment of our lives as kids, and we're like, okay, cool. And then I was like, oh, what? The special editions? All right, well, that was cool. You can see them again.
And I went to say all
of them. And then like there's gonna be another, and you're like, what? This is insane.
Another trilogy.
All ready to just totally freak out, but by that point, everyone's old enough to know better, and and it was just it couldn't. Like now we're kind of like, well, there's so many coming out that. There's gonna be a dog in here somewhere.
Right.
I have a feeling I know where, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, cool. And even if they do suck, 10 more years, there's probably gonna be like 20 more of them.
Exactly.
I'll never die having seen every Star Wars movie at this point. That was like a fear I had. Like when the prequels were coming out, it's like, oh my god, what if I die before Phantom Menace comes out?
I have to know. I gotta make it.
Like
I gotta start making some wiser choices.
Like most things in life, fine. Wouldn't have mattered that much. Probably would have been better if I never saw the prequels. But it was fun getting your hopes up for a little bit, and that's what really hurt too, because I love like Natalie Portman and Ewan McGregor so much that it was like, how could this be bad? There's like even Liam Neeson, I was just like, this is like. But anyway, we're not acknowledging those. We're moving on. We're talking about
their issues. They're well documented.
Yeah, so 40 years since this first one. Now this is the 40-year anniversary, 77, and that's pretty crazy that something can last and be that passionate.
I was legitimately 3 years old.
Yeah, so I was legitimately 0.
0 years old. I was a zygote.
The math adds up, man. And, real dumb that they didn't blow up that escape pod.
Yeah.
It is real.
Because you're living in a universe in which that droids exist. And that is the means by which you would carry data.
And the whole point that you're trying to kill all these people is because there's been some, Microsoft shit that's on a disc.
Like, if nothing else, that someone could have just gotten real desperate and just chucked the disc on
you didn't even need the robots.
And just hope that someone found it. Or knew that someone was looking for it or something.
Oh, I'm ready to... No, hold up. There's no laser.
Whoa, don't waste that laser. Don't waste that sparkle energy.
We know how much lasers cost these days.
That's exactly. Like, every laser... That's some money out of our pocket.
It would have been insane if you take in the whole history of everything that happened now that we know about before, leading up to that with Rogue One and the prequels, like all this shit, and nope, the dude just blew up the pod, and that was
and we're done.
It's like, oops.
We never get to find out that Anakin made C3. Nothing.
None of the.
They're just like, nope, done.
Man, Luke would still be working on that dirt farm.
He would, or would he? Maybe he would have run away.
With Biggs.
With Biggs.
Raised space goats with Biggs, man.
He's like, how's it going, Biggs? Why is it your name is Biggs?
Let's tell you. The Force is strong with you.
Oh, this one is most powerful.
Maybe it would have been a better trilogy.
Maybe. Or at least more affirming in some way. Yeah.
Cool. Any other revelations? Maybe Tarkin always looked crappy? Like that?
He actually, that is a good one because I recently just rewatched it on VHS, and it's original, like not messed around George Lucas version. And like as you're watching, you're like,
I think
that Rogue One is actually pretty close.
Actually, being pretty flattering.
He looks sort of unnaturally weird.
He actually took off a few blemishes and stuff. Took out a few wrinkles, photoshopped in a few more muscles.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that actually might be some of the weird stuff where it's like, well, I mean, we can't just make him the Billy. He's got to be a little bigger. He's got to be the little something, or
he was eating better, getting more sleep back in those days.
Exactly. So, like, that's I think that's what kind of makes it weird. Like, he's not just a natural person with whatever sort of jaggedy whatever, said a word wrong, whatever happens to be. But
well, as we go into Rogue One, you cool with that?
Yes.
Okay, so Tarkin, that's a pretty ballsy move, though, for them to do that.
I don't, like, if it does not turn out that Tarkin somehow, whether he's Snoke or something, or he's in, like, a Foot Locker somewhere, like, it makes no sense that you would bother to put him in there, because it could be anyone.
Yeah, why did they get so much trouble? It didn't really matter.
No point.
Everyone was totally fine since 1977 of him being blown up.
Yeah.
And never seeing him again.
And, like, if you didn't see him again, like, I can see, like, you're trying to seed it into sort of that story, into that universe. You're like, okay, that's a marginal character, but it definitely ties it to the rest of the story. So if he's in it, it then very much is seated in that first movie. So I get that, but at the same time,
a lot of money and a lot of like potential, like and people just being like, "What?"
It's distractingly, and like even if it's perfect, people know he's dead,
right?
So people are going to be distracted by that. So why? It's just like he's not Grand Moff Tarkin; he's like Grand Moff Pete,
right? It's so weird, and because the rest of the movie was so none of that, like flashy. Well, hey, look at the technology we got now, like that's what I love about Rogue One is that it was like so straight up war movie. It looked like it was like the Star Wars equivalent of like a World War II movie that my dad and brothers would love, It was like gritty, everything was just dirty and, kind of bare bones. It wasn't all goofy with kid stuff.
And it wasn't people with powers or special weapons.
People fucking killing each other, trying to get something.
It's horrible and awful. And
mass destruction and all that. Yeah, so it's so weird that they would even like attempt that. So maybe there's something to that in the prediction side, but it doesn't make any sense that he would survive being blown up, though.
No,
I don't know
not really.
How they could spin that?
No, and he's apparently not a Force user in Star Wars, so there's really no reason to think he would later
be some powers to teleport his mind into
or to be like Force sensitive enough that later he's going to manipulate Kylo Ren or anything. So I mean, maybe he was. I mean, you don't really know, but I just like it within the context of just Rogue One itself. It's weird that there's this very clearly, even if it was somehow almost as just perfect, and you could believe that was really the dude back from the dead. That's still distracting because it's a technological marvel. Yeah. Yet you've put that punctuation point in the middle of a sentence that didn't need it in the wrong place in a movie which is supposed to be gritty and dirty and like down on its luck and all of that. So that's not the place you do that. You would do that in The Force Awakens or whatever. Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, it is weird. I didn't feel like it took away at all, but it is definitely just weird.
It takes you out of the film, which is not obviously. Yeah. Now, having said that, I think that Rogue One is a good movie. I enjoyed it. I think I know that Ganita and I saw it like a month or so after it came out, so I had heard enough. Like I think maybe even you said, it's a really good Star Wars movie. And like other people are like, it's like the best Star Wars movie or whatever. And so that's high praise to live up to. So I maybe think a little less of it,
Right.
almost because of those expectations. Having said that, it really is good. So
Yeah, it's and I feel like
there
it
are
gets
parts
better.
that make no, like, there's no reason for Forrest Whitaker to be in it.
Yeah, he
There's
does.
no reason for, and if he was, there's no reason for him to have that second scene as older Forrest Whitaker,
Yeah.
Saw Gerrera. And what is it, the fucking mind reader creature?
Yeah,
No purpose.
yeah, that even
Like-
more so than him. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
it's
Yeah.
like what?
Like,
It's
you
like,
could,
yep, it's telling the truth. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, thanks, mind reader.
thanks. But we didn't have enough time to question that within
Yeah.
the narrative of the movie, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's a lot of characters. That was like dangerous, and even on the first watch, I was like, "Wow, I loved it," but like just kind of backtracking to it, I was like, "There's a lot of people," and I'm not sure because we're so used to everybody being. I think we talked about that, where I was like, how much of it is like you're just used to everybody having this huge backstory, and
Right.
when it comes to Star Wars, you're like, "Whoa, little Admiral Akbar was once a small lobster that you know,
Then he was a sea monkey.
yeah, so like when you have
Yeah.
these characters that, obvious spoiler, that are all just there and they're going to die by the end of this movie pretty much.
Yes.
So it's like, maybe you don't need their whole story, but with that in mind, still throwing a ton of people on like this ship to, even like the blind almost Jedi
Right.
guy and his buddy, they're awesome and
Yeah.
they're cool, but at the same time, you do feel like they're a little underdeveloped just because it is such a small blip in the grand scheme of
Right.
Star Wars-ness, but maybe you don't need it. I felt like it maybe in a good war movie sense too, they made you care about them even though you don't know that much about them.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's,
you did like actually give a shit about them, which
Yeah.
sometimes movies don't manage. to
yeah,
do,
even
so.
like epic World War II movies I've seen, Thin Red Line, I was like, I don't care if any of these people
That's
are. But,
Sorry, you're part of the line, dude.
yeah, exactly. And, so I mean, it was weird, but yeah, a couple of unnecessary things like that, and probably just did where they probably filmed like a 6-hour movie, and they're like, we gotta trim this thing down. And Forrest Whitaker wasn't really that relevant when they started to boil it down. I was like, and I guess he had some kind of connection to like maybe the Rebels cartoon or something. I haven't watched any of that
Yes.
stuff, so it
I
seemed
don't
like
either, but he
somebody
did.
they were
Yeah.
throwing in that was kind of a throwback to something, so they're probably more committed to the idea of him being in there than
Right,
than
that is necessary. Yeah.
so-
And even I get that you need some sort of mechanism to get Jin out of kind of the hidey hole
right,
and then on to the rest of her life, but that doesn't need to be anybody specific. And I get like sort of the fundamentalist or radical, revolutionary, and all
because
of that.
it's a cool idea because they're like the extremist rebels, but they didn't have time to develop it.
Right,
was
and
kinda
if you
what?
were
Okay.
going to have them in there, why wouldn't you develop it then?
Yeah.
Like, take out Tarkin and take out even like Ben Mendelsohn. Who did he play?
Her dad.
No, not.
Oh no, him. Yeah, the bad guy.
Yeah, the bad dude, whatever his name, I can't remember. Like, he could have been, like, if you want to tell that story with the extremists, and the extremists, struggling against the rebels, even as they both struggle against the Empire, you can tell that story. But then Ben Mendelsohn's character doesn't really need to be all that prominent. He could just be any, in the first Star Wars movie, I mean, Tarkin's not all that remarkable a guy. He is just a guy. He is sort of
like
the
a
figurehead
general
for the
running
Empire
before.
because you haven't seen the Emperor yet.
Right.
And you could do that, and you could tell the other story instead. It's just, it's a weird.
Yeah, it's a little with the editing, but directing wise, I felt like that dude. It was weird because he didn't have any kind of resume that Godzilla or some shit. Like,
Who was it? Again?
Gareth Edwards.
Yes,
Gareth
Edwards. Yeah,
and
he did. Yeah, he did.
yeah. So I thought it was great. Yeah, it was like for what he had to work with. Some of that stuff should have been trimmed and maybe rearranged, but for what it was,
But all in all, like on first watch, I think it is a great movie.
yeah.
And then as you sort of percolate on it, you're like, yeah.
And the last 30 minutes, at least, like as soon as they land on the beach, I thought that's probably where it won me over as like possibly some of the best battle in Star Wars shit, because that was just all like so fluid, like just the fact that they like broke in and they didn't overdo any of that. So And I know there was some rearranging of the scenes because there's like stuff of her like jumping or with the TIE fighter flying up in the preview that never actually happened, and so that's weird that I felt like it flowed so good, like by them being like, shit, this is basically a suicide mission, and like them that with the crashing in and bleeding into the end of the. And that whole Darth Vader scene, of course, is like Star Wars nerd boner material, where it's just like, oh man, Darth Vader just almost cutting loose a bit too much, because then he's just kind of a stiff by New Hope. But at the same time,
for sure. But, I expected that to sort of lead into something that made you say, oh, that's why he's kind of a stiff.
Yeah, but
it didn't, and that's fine.
Yeah,
I kind of liked. Nope, lost it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Nope, sorry.
The blind guy.
The blind guy,
yeah. I don't know. Final Theories, so I like Diego, the Cassian. He's grown on me every time I watch it. He's really cool. I like to see him and
I think it would be cool, like if any one person who could have survived, I think he would probably be the most interesting, because that is a dude that you get a sense, like they do a good job of conveying that guy probably didn't come from the best circumstances,
right?
And something in his backstory makes him totally willing to be like, all right, it's worth it. You know, if I have to kill this totally innocent person, right here and right now. I mean, like,
and pretty early on, that dude in the alleyway, that's like a weird, like,
and in his own way, he's an extremist in the same way that Saw Gerrera is. I mean, like, if I have to kill you, I'm just gonna do it.
And he even has like a good line somewhere. There's like, we've all done shit, and we've all, it's like we've all got a weird past that got us here.
Yeah,
something I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was like, I think on that ship after she was like accusing him of being there to kill her dad, but he didn't actually pull the trigger, kind of thing. He's like, hey, we've all done shitty things to get here, or something like that. And you're like, whoa, this dude's he's cool. I like him a lot. Every viewing, I kind of like him a little bit more, and
it stands out amongst all the movies that we've seen thus far, in that while it's obviously unreal and neither of us have experienced it, it sort of tries to convey the point that not all of this is fucking going and getting medals and lightsaber medals, and like there's just down and dirty, horrible shit that happens. And the rebels maybe are the good guys, but this is the film that shows you that even the good guys have to do terrible things. You know, like there's a lot of gray in the middle.
Yeah, like I said, it feels like a real war movie. Really, damn.
Yeah, like
dirty shit.
Yeah, like people being willing and able to do that is what sort of allows Luke Skywalker to have the luxury of fighting the sort of good fight and the ethical fight and the sort of higher level, concerns of dark versus light, because those people are just struggling to survive. And that I think is the successfulness of the successfulness of the film.
So I guess, and then flipping back a little, but in continuity sense, was Force Awakens. The
good movie.
Rogue One, but the newest that continues the original trilogy there, and I loved it from the get-go. I know a lot of people had complaints about it being too following the blueprint of New Hope, but I felt like it had to at this point.
Yeah.
Like now, whatever the hell the next one's going to be, should be kind of a little more off the charts.
Maybe a little something different.
But I feel like it like reeled you back, because it had to kind of be like, all right, this is sticking to the originals. We're not doing the prequel thing. And old JJ, he pulled me in, and I'm down.
He is real good at the start. I think that Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams Productions, so often are so good at setting up the thing that makes you go, man, this seems awesome. But they don't always pay off, which makes me worry a little bit. Because recent developments mean that he will be directing and writing partially the ninth one,
so
the
finale.
third in the trilogy.
Which I'm all for. Even maybe
I think
too much. I'm already 2-1, but I feel like if anybody could start something, and then he already said that he kind of had the story and handed it off to the 8.
You would assume
one, and then whatever he's gonna rein it in for like whatever, you know. And seems like enough of a fan clearly from doing Force Awakens with such good respect that like he's not gonna make it stupid by the end and just be like, all right,
hopefully he doesn't.
Everyone's related, derp.
Yeah.
It's just like who knows, but like. Same time, maybe it's just like, well, whatever. Everyone likes it at this point. We can ride it out.
I think it will probably be good, and I think he did real well. But like stuff like I never watched any of Lost, except for the very last episode because my wife was into it and she really liked it and seen it all. I was like, well, I'll watch the final one. I've refused to do it this long, but I'll watch the last one. And like even to me. That sort of revelation was like this show just shit its pants. Yeah, I mean, and like it, I fear that he's more of a like. It is easier to have the build up than it is to have the payoff, which is like the downfall of so many TV shows like Moonlighting, where there's the sexual tension and the romantic tension between two leads, but once you consummate that, it's just all the air is out of the balloon. So. You know, I think that the movies or his shows sometimes fall into that. Like Alias was similar.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's not the case.
Yeah.
Hopefully he does.
I'd like to think
he's got a thing. I think
this trilogy probably already had it laid out more than the original for sure. Like, and even the prequels, I feel like I don't think they would have dove into this whole like. Thing quite as hardcore if they were just making it up,
right? And
there's always like we're saying, there's always an element of like, do they really even know?
It kind of
and then there's other twists.
Well, they'll just like they've now fired at least 2 different directors or 3,
why.
and you're just like, and you know maybe it's just like you're not getting along. Or maybe you're not playing in the sandbox the way you're supposed to, and that could be good for J.J. Abrams because. If his weakness happens to be the finish, then maybe Kathleen Kennedy and whoever is like, they're just like, no, you will not underwhelm on this. Like, this is how it's going to go, and you're going to get us there. And between the two of us, or between the however many of us, we're going to get there. So maybe that's a good thing, you know?
Yeah, we'll see. It's hard to even ponder the third one when we haven't seen the second one yet.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
They did just fire the director and hire J.J. Abrams
for the second one too.
For the third one. So,
they're just gonna redo everything with J.J. Abrams.
That's right. Like fuck it.
All right. Well, at this point, I'm on board.
Well, I think they were trying to get the dude who did the second to come back and do the third one, and he declined. So I think
I just finished. I'm not even finished.
Yeah,
he's still
I think it's probably just a tough road to hoe.
Still trying to like CG in like a porg in the. Was that what those things are called?
Yes, those fucking
to every scene.
Puffin penguin things. Like, why is that in there?
We'll get to that in a minute. But I guess as far as Force Awakens, I think it probably goes without saying at this point, everyone was just happy that they used like real effects and sets and puppets and Muppets and all that shit again.
Yes,
mixed in with like tasteful CG and stuff like that.
Right.
And the new characters were just as likable almost as the old ones.
Right.
And, like, you know, Han Solo was fucking great, of course, and everybody.
And you kind of get him out of the way, in the best way possible, really, for the story.
Yeah. And.
So that the other characters kind of take over the story.
And a ton of fucking not loopholes, but questions still to answer.
Yeah.
And
I will say, I don't know about Maz Kanata. Like, is that character, like, really at all useful? Like, the lightsaber could have just been anywhere for any reason. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe she's got a part to play. But you don't see much of that in the first one.
Supposed to be a little more of her in this one, but not a ton. But yeah, and apparently she had a ton cut from Force Awakens. But I didn't really get much of that. And she was cool. I was down with it. She actually looked pretty cool for like a CG kind of thing. But I don't know. Like it's pretty cool to think of where the questions pop up that aren't even real questions. You know, like I guess we can go right into the predictions now.
Let's do it.
Of like Rey's background is the one where everyone's like dwelling on, but maybe we don't ever need to know. Maybe it's a question just everyone's assuming that we're supposed to find out because everyone's related to somebody in Star Wars. So maybe we're not gonna know. She doesn't find out until like the last 15 minutes of the third one, and it's just like, yep, it's some douchebag like
Just a
Uncle
dude.
Owen that was like,
like
who knows, it's like
the Ray story, or the Ray sort of, is she related to somebody, isn't she, makes me think of in the 60s, I guess it would have still been, Steve Ditko and Stan Lee were working on Spider-Man together, and Spider-Man was hugely popular really quickly. And they had the bad guy called the Green Goblin, and Steve Ditko was like a really big part of the success of that book, thanks to his design and his art. And they ended up breaking up in large part because, at least this is what the stories say, because Stan Lee said it's a comic book story. The Green Goblin has to be somebody. And Steve Ditko just very much felt like, yes, but in the real world, it would just be anybody. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have to, we should not hang a story on, it's Norman Osborn, Harry Osborn's dad.
Yeah.
And so he ended up, like, in part because of that sort of disappointment or frustration, left the book, and other artists came along, and it clearly went on to do just fine. But I feel like the Ray story is sort of the same thing. Like, because it's a story and it's written and manufactured, you expect it to be Obi-Wan Kenobi or something somehow, and you almost want that. But if it happens, you're gonna be like, well, that's bullshit.
Right?
It's a convoluted.
It's not going to add up no matter what.
Right? So
it
makes more sense for them to just be like, her parents were just like Pete and Tom.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They're dead.
Yeah.
Because really, Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru are nobody.
Yeah.
And for all intents and purposes, they were.
I guess the question is because she has so much natural force. That everyone's like, well, where the fuck did that come from? She couldn't just be some orphan kid,
right?
So somebody, it was like Yoda's Wild Night Out or something. It's like,
or is it?
But there was a ton of Jedi at some point. There could just be some weird.
That's true, and clearly the vast majority of them did not heed the no kids thing, which doesn't make sense if you're interested in having more Jedi. Like I almost would kind of appreciate it if it was nobody, but I think it would ultimately kind of be disappointing. Like, I think if you're going to have it be nobody, then you need to write a story that very quickly sort of introduces that, dismisses it, and moves on, because this other thing is much more interesting and important. Like, Obi-Wan dropped her off on Jakku and is somehow her godfather. Or
blood on her.
Or whatever. Whatever,
He nursed her.
Some
really weird scene.
Was Jedi neck nipples.
It's like, wow, okay, I guess you could do that.
I'm not a Jedi. I guess that could be the case.
Yes. So, it's weird because, nothing really adds up, or else if she's just like some Luke Wild Night Out, that's like too predictable. It's like, guess what, Ray? I'm your father. And he looks at her. It's like, oh, really? Come on, man.
There was a brief period of time where I freaked out and wasn't living on this island, and I boned them all.
But it's the most obvious, safe one. Probably it would be fine. It wouldn't ruin it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, all right, we've already done that.
There's just like a whole lot of, there's a whole lot of repetition throughout the thing. But the biggest one seems to be, now this person is the one who's going to balance the force, or this one is the prophesied one. And Ray could be that, I guess.
Again.
But they're going to keep making movies, so she won't, because you need the imbalance in the force.
Maybe that's what they're getting at with The Last Jedi. And I heard some theory, I don't know if anyone was really backing it up officially, but like how Luke's all fed up, and he's like, the Jedi are kind of crappy because we never accomplished anything, and you're some weird...
And it's like a bastardized version.
Yeah, so like maybe this is the official end of the Jedi, and he's going to make her something new, and they won't really have to bother explain what she is. She's like a wizard. Maybe she's like Palpatine's kid or something.
Yeah.
That's
probably
that would
kind of be cool.
Yeah. Some weird spin off of that, or Snoke, or probably going to be some weird connection between her and Kylo Ren.
I feel like it would probably just story-wise, watching it as a fan, be more satisfying if she was at least somehow related or somehow connected to one of the established characters.
Yeah.
And Snoke was not. So like Snoke is just because Snoke is your opportunity to just be like, nope, just a guy.
Yeah.
Because the Emperor was just a guy,
right.
Until they told us more about him. So like maybe Snoke's just a dude who was force sensitive enough to manipulate some things and find like if you're a clever politician and a good manipulator, you don't really need all that much force power to be very powerful in the Force. You just need to be able to locate a few individuals who are very powerful in the Force and can be manipulated.
True.
And you're good.
Yeah. And they had his toy just came out. They had Force Day or some shit.
They did.
And some new toys, and apparently I saw some things where they're like, I think it was like actual released in some magazine, a picture of Snoke, and he looks like he's not like Yoda size, but he's not like a giant, or maybe he's taller than you would think, but he's just kind of like a crappy little crusty headed dude, but like
a twisted up
based on his toy, it's pretty much the same. So I don't know if that tells us any more or less what the hell happened to his head, and
maybe he's just from a race that looks like that.
Yeah,
we don't know.
So we'll never know. I guess other toys, we saw some kind of red guards. They were like
fancier helmets
really
and
flat face, like not much detail, but cool. I'm not sure what they are. The porgs we mentioned earlier, some like little
cute bastards,
cute penguins on the island there with Luke. That looked a little
what
dangerous.
Is the purpose of that?
Yeah, that was starting to get into like, oh, I'm Lucky, I'm a porg. It's
like he could, like it's. To me, having not seen the new movie, so who knows?
Yeah.
Like, it's more satisfactory if he's just there by himself.
Yeah, for sure. Why
Let
would
alone
he hanging out with a bunch of
like fucking weird-ass shit turds. Yeah.
Well, maybe more importantly on that line, what do you think, prediction-wise, of how much Luke are we getting in this one? Is he going to be...
Oh, man, I think...
all up in this shit, or is he just going to be...
Yeah, I think he is going to... I don't think he's going to embrace training her... But I think he, nonetheless, will be integral to training her.
About as much as Han Solo was in the last one, you think? Or more?
Yeah, I would think at least that much, maybe more. And then he and she kind of team up, at least long enough for her to hook back up with Finn and stuff like that. And maybe he goes off. Like, I think the better question maybe is, do you think that Luke dies in this movie?
Yeah, it's hard to say when they're going to kill him off or if they have to. It seems kind of inevitable. Almost in the sense I'd say no, because they killed Han Solo. And it seems a little too obvious that they're just going to pick them all off, like Sopranos style. But, like, because Carrie Fisher died, though, she's going to have to not... Something's going to have to happen to her for not being the last one, so... If they kill her off, but I'm sure they probably didn't have that figured out for him already. They know what the hell's going to look. But
like my gut tells me he'll make it through. He'll be the one that makes it through.
Maybe in the third one he might
he just fades away.
Yeah, third one he might just like do like a Jedi implosion or something to blow up like the fifth Death Star or something.
Yeah, the Death Star.
Something just to go out in an epic ball of glory. But I think he probably will make it through this one because it would be a little too predictable to kill him off Han Solo's style. But
I think he's going to be very, very resistant to training her.
Yeah.
And so the training process that we saw in one movie with Obi-Wan, even though he didn't do much training, I think that would necessarily be drug out. Yeah. And so maybe because of that, he makes it through.
Do you think he'll dabble in dark again? Like, like he's going to be all jaded and kind of like...
I think that the ideas that people are talking about of what do they call it? A gray Jedi? Someone who's just kind of in the middle. Yeah. So like a gray Force user who's like, this is an artificial division, and yes, the dark side, those practitioners are bad, but the Jedi are... I mean, like I saw something on YouTube or read it on the internet or something like they were talking about, like if you just watch the prequels dispassionately, and if you try to approach them as a person who doesn't know about the previous movies, like the Jedi Council is not really that great. Like they have at best they've got a bunch of kids that they've convinced parents to let go, so they can indoctrinate them into a pseudo religion, so that this council can, sort of sit on high and make prediction, or huge, like you have to, you can't be emotional, you can't marry, you can't love. Well, none of that is good. I mean, so maybe this idea of the dark and the light is a falsehood, and Luke has discovered that you have to embrace both the dark and light, and that is the sort of balance of the Force.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. And if you can tell that story and convey all that much better than I just did, that's a good story.
Because that would be cool, because maybe then he even tipped that off to Kylo Ren as a boy, and he just didn't handle it right, and that's why he snapped and shit, and but I wonder if she's gonna be like, so when's my training? And then he's just gonna have days where he's in the corner and his eyes are red, and he's like, I'm bad today, I can't work. Or if he's just gonna, because he was such a goody through the first original three, that if he has even this huge, everyone talks about, and that he has the ability to turn, but we really didn't see any real temptations in any of the, for a second he just didn't want to hurt his dad. That was the only thing.
Exactly.
I mean, he was never really considering joining the dark side, I felt like, so I was like, it seems like that would kind of negate everything if he just had some weird scene where you saw him just massacring a village or something. It's what?
That's not good.
Yeah. Just, being a total prick even or something, where it's I don't know, but it'd be interesting. I don't know.
I think it is a good way to, at this point you can't, if you're making the new movies, discount the prequels.
Yeah.
You can't just be like, this didn't happen. You could, but people wouldn't buy it.
Yeah.
So if you're going to reconcile the prequels with the original movies, then one of the ways that you could do that is just to say the Jedi were better in that they didn't want to cause harm and maybe wanted to have some sort of order out of chaos, as opposed to the Sith, who were chaotic and selfish and overly passionate and all that. Yes, maybe the Jedi were better, but it's a false division, and the real thing is that you have to balance it within yourself as an individual, or it doesn't really work.
True.
And maybe that's what makes you the most powerful, and if that's the case, that makes those prequels kind of make sense in a way that they wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, sure.
Because Mace Windu, Samuel L. Jackson, and the guys that go with him, you kind of understand why they're doing what they're doing, but that is not the light side.
Right.
When they just decide to kind of make an attack on the Palpatine, what's his nuts.
Yeah.
That's his name, right? Palpatine, what's his nuts.
What's his nuts?
Yeah.
Wrinkly nuts.
Yeah.
But, it makes sense. I don't know. They have a weird Jedi side of it all, too. Myself included, always considered in hindsight why the prequels kind of sucked is because there was no Han Solo. Do you think these two new ones might have that same problem because there's no, or is somebody going to have to step up and
I think that maybe it has been long enough, and the fact that he wasn't in the first new movie at all, that you can buy Luke has, because I think there's a reason that Harrison Ford went on to have a huge movie career, and the rest of them by and large did not. I mean, he's got sort of more gravitas, but I think now that they're older and you've moved Han out of the way, Han's not coming back. He's genuinely dead, at least we assume. So, and we didn't get to see Luke at all, except for a very tiny little snippet, and we don't know what's going on there. I think that is smart.
At least 8, if they get into 9 where they're all sitting around in robes and drinking coffee.
But so if he's this sort of messed up dude who has had lived enough life and is old enough now that he's literally not just baby faced anymore, but is sort of this grizzled old dude. He's not old Han Solo. Han Solo is this cool dude, and now he's the old cool dude. He is the guy who used to be probably over optimistic or overly anxious or whatever, and now has seen enough that he's the cool dude.
Yeah.
You know, and so maybe
different kind of cool.
I feel like it's been long enough they've constructed such a way that you can kind of plug him into that, that part.
I feel I'm pretty confident about it. And with like
and you've got Poe Dameron to kind of like take over the like dashing, daring
between him and Finn, like they'll crack enough jokes where hopefully it'll be like kind of lighthearted and it won't just be a lot of council meetings.
Yeah, like they can handle all the sort of swashbuckling.
Yeah,
and maybe Luke can be the sort of gravitas, and they'll combine to make it work.
I hope so, man.
It'll work.
It'll be good.
I have faith.
So sad if it just totally bottoms out at this point. It's like,
we're not making the third one now.
So close to doing it, but pretty sweet. I guess I guess we have to address Princess Leia. What do you think's up with that? Like, do you think?
I don't think it's possible for them to, like, Rogue One certainly proved that people don't really, I think, want and are not ready, certainly this early on, with a real person to be like, we'll just CG, it's fine. You know, like, I don't think they'll do that because it'll be seen as insensitive and weird, and it would be weird. So I think that they have to, story-wise, come up with some way for her. Like, does she fly the ship into the super destroyer? Does she?
Which would be so weird,
right?
So I mean, it really depends on how much stock footage they have. Because, like, her family okayed that too. Like,
right, so
whatever they filmed, if they have.
Does Kylo Ren cut her down?
Yeah.
Did they film enough that she can kind of have an arc?
Yeah.
And at the end of the 9th film, you feel like she's been given her due, and you don't really have to address the fact she's not there anymore because it seems like she was.
Yeah,
that could be it.
Because she is so pivotal that, like, you can't just make her disappear. You know?
Yeah, like I read online somewhere that, like, in the new trilogy, the first one was kind of supposed to be Han Solo's movie, the second one Luke's movie, and the third one Leia's. When obviously you can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like Han's movie is the first one, and Luke's movie is the second one, and the third one now becomes like Rey, Finn, and Poe's movie, and Kylo Ren's, and maybe Leia is this sort of overarching kind of
Which might be why the director left and everything too, because they like totally changed the story on him and shit.
I mean, it's possible. Yeah.
Maybe he's like, "Fuck this, man."
Yeah, I mean,
they're all like, "We gotta fix this." Like, it's just total.
He's like, "Nope, telling the story."
God.
It's weird that, like, years ago they might just recast her, or like it wouldn't be such a big deal. But nowadays it's like every little thing.
Yeah, I don't know how they could do it. There's really like, unless they, I mean. If it happened in there, like they were just bullshit, and then they already killed her off at the end of this one anyway, that would have been like ideal, you know, where she just gets blown up or something at the end of this one, and they're like, you know, but I'm sure.
I mean, I guess like most of her scenes for the 8th movie had been filmed, so you could possibly...
she sounds like she's done and in the 8th one. That's great, but
so you could
you could kill her in the crawl somehow, but that would just be such like
or maybe you do just enough. Maybe you don't CGI her and show her directly, you know, like a CGI representation of her, but maybe a stand-in is there at the very beginning of the 9th one, or for her murder, or for whatever. Like, I feel like because Carrie Fisher is such a big deal to the franchise, like, people are going to expect, whether it's justified or not, like, she's not just going to be like, well, gonna go do some politics, see ya, and then just be gone. Like, I feel like there's going to be like this happened. Yeah,
it would almost be better if they just somehow like, there's been a tragedy in the Force in the beginning of the 9th one, you know, just like Princess Leia's been blown up on a diplomat. It's just like, what? It would suck because there wouldn't be any real closure.
Or I mean, like, maybe in, like, if you are clever, it happened at such a point that it's possible
she's leaving on some mission right as the movie ends.
Yeah, and then you find out later it didn't go well, or she did what they set out to do, but she died in the process. Or maybe somehow she dies and you like say you show about half of her scenes in the 8th one, and somehow she dies, and you show that, and you don't really need the actress there for that. You can kind of fudge around that without CGIing her. And then in the 9th one, you flash back to some of the scenes or plug in some of the scenes that she had done already that you were going to have an 8. I think it'll be something like that.
It would be kind of cool even to kill some of the heroes, the original heroes off screen too. Because if they start just like kind of plucking them all off like in front of us, like Han Solo, it just gets a little sad. And like, like if every movie was like,
Kylo Ren can't just now kill his mom. Like, we've seen that trick.
Silly. So maybe it would be cool if she just is like blown up somewhere and we didn't see it.
Or they're like they've got
that's how life is anyway. You're just like, what? She's fucking dead.
And like, well, fuck. I mean, the woman died of a heart attack and nobody expected it to happen. So maybe, like Princess Leia could just die of a heart attack and nobody expected it. So
like the first person in the whole galaxy to she was just hanging out at the space bar and
heart disease. What?
It's terrible, but I hope they handle it well. But
I would like to think that
at least weeks were spent of people sitting around doing what you and I are doing, where they have every possible scenario mapped out and a good amount of people.
What is the seesaw balance? that makes it sort of satisfying as a story element, yet is not disrespectful, yet shows enough but not too much. Because at this point, like I think in Rogue One, people are okay that Carrie Fisher is in at the very end. Because it ties it in. It's a tiny little
and that was necessary, even going back to what we were saying with Rogue One with Tarkin, where it was just weird because he wasn't really that pivotal, but like even as weird as, and even weirder because everyone loves Carrie Fisher and she's more of a real character for sure. And it's like, but you kind of accepted it because
you're like, and it's just like a small little bit. You only get a snippet and it's done. So that's okay. That works better.
And it looked great too.
And it looked good. So
I wouldn't want to see her doing the whole movie like that.
No. So that's good, but I don't think people would accept like any amount of sort of like CGI older Carrie Fisher in another movie. I just don't. I mean, maybe they'll prove it wrong.
She was barely in Force Awakens anyway, so I wonder how much they really had her.
Like if you're clever and she's just barely in the next two, you've probably filmed enough that you could spread it around, and she has sort of a satisfactory little arc, and Luke becomes a major player in the second one, and then you just revert to kind of your new cast being in that third one.
Makes sense.
That's what I would do.
Well, I guess we won't know until the 15th of December.
Yes, which is less than half a year away.
Not far off.
Oh my God!
But we'll at least know more about Luke, and that'll be cool. So
and his robot hand
and porgs.
Yes.
But real quick, we won't dwell on them because we don't really know. Or the Han Solo one, initial feelings.
I don't see why you would bother to do it. I think they're other characters. Like, I love Han Solo. I think he's cool, but I think he's cool within the other movies. Like, I don't like if you're going to do like Obi-Wan has more to do with this sort of mythos and this. You could, and there's a big gap that you could fill in there.
And on par with that's the other question. I guess it's been official that the Obi-Wan's happening.
I think it is.
Is it official with you?
I don't know if it's truly official.
Official.
But I think that it is rumored enough, that it's probably happening. So an Obi-Wan movie with Ewan McGregor. He's said a number of times that he's on board with it.
And he's awesome. For no other reason, he deserves a.
He's like Teflon. Like that dude could be in a bad movie and nobody ever's like, it's not very good.
He's amazing. I love the dude, and he could just be putzing around in a desert, and I'd watch that for 2 hours. That'd be great.
And it would be more interesting. I think that the Han Solo's backstory is only kind of interesting as backstory, which is one of the problems with the prequels. Like you end up feeling like pretty quickly, I'm just watching backstory. This is not a story worth telling in and of itself.
It seems like a lose-lose. I'm definitely the most skeptical of any of them.
And maybe it'll be good.
And even if it isn't, whatever. I'll take one crappy one for every.
Yeah, exactly.
If they keep the other ones rolling out.
Okay, cool.
We've got 2 good ones now. It's so nice having Rogue One and Force Awakens because, there was for so many years where I was just like, man, I want to watch Star Wars, but I don't want to watch the original trilogy.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of these movies, and having 2 new movies that you can throw on and get something out of on a Sunday afternoon, that's pretty great. So.
I have seen the first third or so of Force Awakens, I don't know, dozens of times. Because I'll put it on while I'm doing something else and then kind of leave and not get back to it. Or my kid will kind of tire out and not want to watch it. And it's great. It's a great movie for that kind of watching, which is what I'm looking for. So,
I hope they keep it rolling.
Awesome.
And there's no real way to go from there, I guess. Shall we wrap this thing up?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, we want to say thanks for listening. We do have a payoff for you guys. There's a special bonus treat for making it through 2 hours of solid Star Wars talk. We thought we'd share our interpretation of the widely loved Star Wars Christmas special.
By Miss Bea Arthur.
Bea Arthur's scene where she is
your soul.
A bartender at the cantina. Working hard, aliens.
It's just closing time.
And everyone's giving her shit. There's a lot of turmoil in the galaxy, as we know.
Right. You don't have to go home, but you cannot stay here.
They're shutting them down early. Everyone's gotta leave. They start rioting, and she just says, "You know what? All right."
Time for a song.
But before we launch into that, be sure to subscribe on iTunes, leave us a comment, and follow us on Instagram as The Pretend Podcast. Drop us an email at thepretendpodcast@gmail.com.
Do it.
And Facebook is where you find all the extra tidbits. So don't forget about the Facebook page. Go over there and like that page and check out all the extra stuff. You may not think it, but we got great artwork flying around. We got video clips. Anything we reference, we'll try to throw out there, and it would be that much more fun if you guys chime in and post your own comments. And
if on any of those avenues you can access it and send us sort of a suggestion or an idea for a theme, whether it's a single thing or a group of things.
It doesn't even have to be Star Wars related.
No, it doesn't.
If this is the first time listening to the show, all the other ones usually aren't Star Wars. So open to suggestions and your predictions and complaints.
If it's a Mono's Hands of Fate episode or whatever, then put it in there.
Chances are we will make it just for you.
At some point, we will try to get to it.
Any feedback is lovely.
We need a list,
So, without further ado, I think we're going to play this Bea Arthur jam. Her finest one on her greatest hits. I think it's track 7. All right, guys, here we go. All right, our take on the classic "Goodnight But Not Goodbye," as sung by Ms.
Bea Arthur and the Tatooine Serenaders.
All right. I get it. You want a drink? Torque, lock the door. Pour Torco, pour Morale.
Torque-rageous.
And we'll bill this one to the Empire.
Yes, we will.
Just one more round, friend, a homeward bound friend. Don't forget me in your dreams. Just one more song, friend, and then so long, friend. The nights get shorter, it seems. Just one more rhyme, friend. It's not a crime, friend. You know it's time, friend, and time can fly. So it's good night, friend. Good night, but not goodbye. Now take your crap and get out of here.
Gotta get out of here.
Don't leave your space shoes all over my floor.
It's disgusting. Pick up that on.
What a night. Closing time. Last call for alcohol. You don't have to go home,
but you can't stay here.